Hello everyone, I'm Nono and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how to describe statistics with appropriate use of prepositions. So using prepositions itself is very confusing and it's pretty hard sometimes. So that's also what we're going for. And at the same time, we are focusing on statistics because it is very useful for writing essays. Well, in areas like strengthening your points, your arguments, by adding factual information, you already solidify your points. So that's why statistics is a very good tool to use in your essay. And at the same time, we are using this opportunity to work on prepositions. So let's get into it. Okay, so now let's take a look at the prepositions in terms of describing statistics. So, like I said earlier, we are going to look at the proper ways of describing statistics with correct prepositions. It's going to be very useful for your writing, essays in this case, when you need to, and sometimes in speaking. Okay, so these are some topics that we will be looking into. Okay, so let's take a look at some mistakes and their solutions for percent off. All right. It says 8% cases are reported to have, or 8% of cases are reported to have. Which one do you think is going to be correct? Okay, so now let's take a look at the other page. Now this is the solution. So in this case, we have to include the of preposition because when we describe a percentage, this is normally taken as a smaller chunk from the bigger one, which would be the total. In this case, it's going to be 8% out of the 100%, which is the total. Okay. So here's another one. Rate and level. The company will grow with a rate of $5 per week, or the company will grow at a rate of $5 per week. What do you think about this one? Okay, so here is the solution. So we use at a rate or level because we want to point to a particular rate or level of the growth that's happening. It's almost like pinpointing the rate or level we want to talk about, and that's why we use the preposition at. But if we use with, it would mean something like the rate accompanying the growth of the company, which is not true according to what we want to say. The company fully embodies its growth rate in this case, and it is not accompanied by it. So there it is. Okay, so here is another one: figures, percentages, total, and so on. So the figures, percentages, data of winter or for winter. What do you think? Okay, so this is the solution. In this case, we would use the figures, percentages, total, data, and so on, and then for as the preposition. So for is used for purposes and intentions. According to these examples, we mean that the calculations in the form of figures, percentages, and data are intended to represent something. We can use the first form of, of sometimes, but there are some exceptions. Of is usually used to talk about possessions or associations. So, for example, figures calculated of the UK and figures calculated for the UK. It's different. Sounds very similar, but it's very different. Okay, so let's think about having an experiment, right? So in this case, there will be a group of people doing the calculations for many categories, but these categories being calculated, the categories participating in the experiment, they do not have ownership of the results, which are calculated by the group, like I said earlier. So these results actually, the figures, percentages, data, they belong to the researchers. So that is an example to visualize of and for. Okay, so here's another one for being highest, ranking first, and so on. It says Paris is second in the table at 76 million visitors, or would you use with 76 million visitors? Well, that's a lot actually. Okay, so now let's look at the solutions. So here it is. We use the preposition with because we want to describe an association or company like we said earlier, and also additional information about the position of Paris. In this case, the fact that Paris has 76 million visitors is accompanying the information that Paris is second in the table. So let's talk about what not to do. At is not very suitable in this case because it does not represent an association or company, but it rather pinpoints a certain point of a rate or level of growth, decline, and so on. So the final one is between. Like we have said earlier in the intro of this video, we will see fluctuations. So now here we are. Let's take a look. The results fluctuated between 3.5% to 4%, and then between 3.5% and 4%. I think this is pretty easy for you to do. So let's go and find out. So this is quite, easy and discernible. When we use between, it's about one point and the other. There's no directional relationship between the 2 points or subjects we're talking about, I must say, because when we use from, there is a direction from one point to the other, but between is like we don't have any direction. It's just linear. It's just flat, one point and the other. It's almost like company. Okay. So when we use between, we're only mentioning changes. In this case, in talking about the graph, we're only mentioning changes that take place in the middle of the 2 points in terms of fluctuation. Okay, so in this case, these 2 points will be the 3.5% and the 4%. All right, to visualize this even more and to understand this even better, let's take fluctuation as an example. Fluctuation means inconsistent changes without a particular pattern that happens within a graph. So it almost looks like a wave, there's no straight line or steady pattern. So that's what fluctuation is. But it also has its own starting and ending point, of course, so which would be the 2 points we use for between. For example, 3.5% and 4%. Okay, so starting from the point where the instability is taking place to the point where the fluctuation or the inconsistency ends and reclaims its consistency will be a period of fluctuation. Or you can also talk about a timeline, which is going to be 2012 to 2016. And then in between those 2 years, 2 points, we're going to see a lot of changes that are inconsistent. So yeah, knowing this example, it will be easier to see how to use between and then the word and. All right, and that's all. Thank you so much for staying till the end. And that is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying till the end. I really hope that you learned something useful to apply in your English learning journey. If so, I am very glad to be a part of it. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.